that are related to the seismic strengthening or the seismic design of the structures, because all these are very correlated one. And we will also see what are the all resources that are available on the earthquake engineering throughout the globe. So here is my short profile. I did my BTech from CTI Vidisha in 7, and then MTech in earthquake engineering. In soil structure interaction, I did my dissertation from IIT Roorkee, and I did my PhD in structural health monitoring from IIT Roorkee. So I have 7 years of experience, and currently I am at NIT Delhi. So these are the contents of this particular presentation. So IS 15988, as I've already said, it is for the RC structures seismic retrofit, and IS 13935, it is for the seismic retrofit of the masonry structure. Then we have the some international guidelines and the codes, and the national guidelines, that is the NDMA and the GSDMA guidelines. We have some IS code related to the earthquake, that is IS 1893 and IS 13920. Then there is one special study that I will be showing, because in IS 1893 there is clause that for the special study we have to go in a we have to conduct the special study for the special study cases. Then we will have a quick glance of the earthquake resistant design, that is a single degree of freedom system, multi degree of freedom system, MDOF system, then the FEM and CAD analysis. Even we will see various global resources on the earthquake engineering. So basically in the retrofitting, we start with the preliminary evaluation, then the detailed evaluation. So part one is preliminary evaluation, and in the IS 13935, the terminology is simplified vulnerability assessment of the masonry building, and for the IS 15988, it is a preliminary evaluation for RC structures or the RC building. So what we look for in the preliminary evaluation is, we see the existing structure, the type, the history, the location, the importance of the structure, whether there are cracks, there is pounding effect, there is liquefaction effect, landslide prone area, then the chimney, parapet, flooding. We see the non-structural component, we see the architecture, that is the configuration we see, and we see the structural deficiencies, we see the construction deficiencies, we see any kind of alteration in the structure during its existence, that is any kind of modification in the structure. Then we see the if there is maintenance which is poor one, and these all things are noted down, and then the simplified vulnerability assessment suggestions are given based on these observations and the basic analysis. Then in the SBA suggestion, it is related to the IS 13935, that is for the masonry structure, and for the preliminary evaluation, this only the terms are changing, that is here it is preliminary evaluation, and in the IS 13935, it is SVA, that is simplified vulnerability assessment. So the seismic risk is also one of the part, that is seismic hazard, vulnerability, exposure, and the location of the structure it is dependent upon. We have the part 2 then, that is a detailed vulnerability assessment. Upon the suggestion of the simplified vulnerability assessment of the preliminary evaluation, we go for the detailed vulnerability assessment or the detailed evaluation of RC structures. And with respect to IS 13935, it is for the masonry structure. Then we have the material property determination for each of the member by the rebound hammer test and the ultrasonic pulse velocity test, the NDT strength test, that is the material property of each of the member we will be finding one by one. Then we have to evaluate the seismic capacity and the demand of all the members. That is, we need to conduct the analysis, seismic analysis, and what is the capacity and demand we need to note. And if the capacity is more than demand, then we are not required to retrofit. If the demand is more, then we have to go for the retrofitting. But again, it depends upon the cost criteria also. If the cost is too high and the structure is non-important, then we should not retrofit it. We go for the new structure. And in case that is the important structures are like the historical structures, the huge cost structure, the VIP structures. Then we have the ERD compliance and retrofit analysis as per these particular codes, that is IS 15988, that we will be evaluating in the detailed vulnerability assessment and the detailed evaluation. In the case of IS 13935, we look for the 13935 provisions for this particular third step. And in the case of IS 15988, we look for the IS 15988 steps for the retrofit analysis. Then we have the retrofit feasibility technology we need to look for. In the IS 15988, there are certain retrofitting technologies that are well defined. That is the fiber reinforced polymer. Then we have jacketing techniques, we have anchorages, braces, etc. We have the DPR and then the detailed project report, that is, and then the DVA recommendations, that is the detailed vulnerability assessment recommendations, and the cost criteria that will decide whether we have to go for the new structure or we have to retrofit the structure. And once this particular thing is decided, then we go for the retrofit design finally, and we execute the construction of the retrofitting. Then we have first we will look for the IS 15988 recommendations, and then we will go for IS 13935 recommendation, that is for the RC structure we will look for first, and the masonry structure we will look later on. So here we have site visit and collection of data as per the clause 6 of the IS 15988. So in the clause 6, it is given that how to collect the data and how to have the site visit. Then the configuration related check in the clause 6.4, these are detailed in an elaborated manner. So we will look for the load path, that is there should be a defined load path, that is right from the load to how the load is transmitting right to the soil, that should be very clearly defined. And in a similar way, we will look for the geometry, the weak story. If there is any kind of weak story or the soft story, then we have to demarcate it. We have to look for the vertical discontinuities, that is the stiffness should be uniform. If it is ununiform, then we have to note that there are certain discontinuities. If there is mass irregularity, then we have to note it down. Torsional irregularity, we have to note it down. We have to see the adjacent building. So adjacent building, there should be proper gap and the pounding should not happen. And if there is some possibility of the pounding, then we have to note it down. Then there is short column, then that also has to be mentioned. And in the clause 6.4, it is very clearly written that what is the definition of the short column and the adjacent building pounding, and what are the limits for the adjacent building poundings. So in that case, we have to note down these particular things. We will see these things in the detail in the coming slides. Then we have the strength related checks. So in the clause 6.5, the equations, certain equations are given, and we will look for basically the shear stress check is very important in the column and the beams. So that is what we will be seeing, and certain equations related to it I will show you in the IS 15988 itself. Then the axial stress related check and the modified demand that we have to calculate with the help of modified material factor, and that is the knowledge factor. So knowledge factor we are going to see in the coming slide. Here that is the material modification factor need to be calculated, that is also synonymously called as the knowledge factor. And here we have the one knowledge factor, that is for the most good material, and little knowledge of the material, that is we are having 0.5 as the knowledge factor. That is very good material, then 1, very worst material, then in that case it is 0.5. So here the definitions are given with respect to the knowledge factor. We need to choose from the best as 1 and 0.5 for the worst. Then we have the lateral load modification factor that is given in IS 15988 clause 5.4. So as per IS 1893, we have the base shear given by AH times of W, that is the seismic horizontal coefficient AH multiplied with the vertical, that is the vertical load W. So vertical load is obviously comprising of certain percentage of the live load also that is acting downwards. So this is AHW, but here there is modification as per IS 15988, that is we need to multiply a factor U, that is a usable life factor. U is called as usable life factor, and it is defined as this particular formula. And here this T remaining is called as the remaining useful life of the building, and T design is the design useful life of the building, and there is a power of it, that is 0.5. And this U should not be less than 0.7 for any case. So this is how we used to calculate the modified base shear for calculating the demand of the structure. That is the demand forces. Then we have over here the evaluation process for the retrofitting, that is the acceptability criteria. If it is satisfied as per clause 6.6 of the IS 15988, as we have seen over here. So here certain strength related check we will be calculating, and as per 6.6 there are certain criteria that are given. So if those are satisfied, then we are not required to retrofit. That is, capacity is more than the demand. 6.6 is nothing but capacity is more than demand. That is, the capacity of the structure is more than the demand forces. In that case, it is acceptability criteria is satisfied, so we are not required to retrofit the structure. And when we are required to retrofit, so here we need to go for the next step, that is a detailed evaluation. And detailed evaluation, in that we will be using the knowledge factor, and that is multiplied with the component strength, and we will be calculating the capacity again, and here the modified lateral force also we will be seeing with the help of the U factor, and finally we will be comparing it with the detailed capacity and the detailed demand, and we will see the acceptability criteria satisfied as per the clause 7.3 of the IS 15988 code. And as per this, if it is satisfied, then not retrofit. If it is not satisfied, then no, that is retrofit is recommended. That is, the capacity is less than the demand. In that case, we will be going for the retrofitting of the structure. Then we have this is one of the retrofitting way of the column, that is jacketing of the column. So here reinforced concrete jacketing of column is presented, and this is the way we used to retrofit a column. That is, we remove certain outer cover and certain concrete from the outer of the column, and then we insert certain bend down bars, and these are shown in the elevation in this way and in the plan in this way, and these are being welded, and new concrete overlay over the jacket is provided. And how these calculations are made are shown over here. So the actual concrete in the jacket and the actual steel in the jacket is given by AC and AS, which is equal to 3/2 times of concrete or steel that is removed, and here also the steel that is removed. So concrete area which is removed and the steel area which is removed is the AS dash and the AC dash, and we need to provide over here AC and AS as the new concrete and the new steel as per the retrofit. Then the spacing of the tie in the column of the jacket, that is, in this one, what should be the spacing of these ties is calculated with the help of this particular formula, that is Fy, the yield strength of the steel, and the cube strength of the concrete, FCK, DH, the diameter of the stirrup, and TJ is the thickness of the jacket. So spacing is calculated of the ties with the help of this particular formula as per IS 15988 clause 8.5.1.1. Then we have fiber jacketing of RC beams. So as we have seen for the column, so here this particular methodology and this particular assumption is made for the fiber reinforced jacketing of RC beams. Here it is assumed that the ultimate flexural strength is determined based on the assumption that compressive concrete reaches a strain of 0.0035 and FRP reaches its maximum strain. So we have seen the stress strain curve in the case of limit state analysis, and here there are certain modification, that is assumption is this one, and the shear strength of the beam after the strengthening is calculated with the help of this particular formula, where the VCOM is tau CBD, that is the same, that is the compressive strength, shear strength in compression, that is tau CBD, and then the shear stress. So here we have a shear force, that is 0.87 F by ASV D by SV. So here this SV is different, that is SV will be from this one. Then we have the shear strength for the FRP given by this particular formula. and where all these are defined over here, that is shear strength, shear contribution of the concrete, shear contribution of steel, shear contribution of FRP sheet. Here there is another way, that is to retrofit a structure, that is we are providing over here a new shear wall. I will make a pause for a minute. Here we have provided a shear wall in this particular way, that is one of the panel, that is if we want to increase the stiffness of the panel, that will be contributing for the earthquake resistance, that is enhancing the earthquake resistance in the shear of the building, then we need to provide an additional shear wall in this particular fashion, and that is a new shear wall is provided over here in this way, and the analysis for the same is given in this particular clause, that is 8.5.2.1. So as we have seen these equations for the beams and for the columns, the similar kind of equations are there for the shear wall also, but I am not going in detail of the same. You can pick it from the IS 15988, and I will show you in the IS 15988 itself. And in a similar way, there is another way, that is we can provide a bracing connection in this way in order to increase the stiffness of the panel, that is to enhance the earthquake resistance or the shear resistance of the building. So this is one of the way, and there is also for this also the equations are given in IS 15988, that how to calculate the various dimensions of the bracing members and how to do the this particular bracing, how to construct this particular bracing and how to design this particular bracing. So the bracket connection at the joint is provided in this particular fashion. Metal plate is there, then the gusset plate is inserted in this way, and the bracing member is connected, and this particular one will be there at each of the joint, and there will be a bracing member in this particular way. So as many number of panels we want to stiffen, we can, that is we want to enhance the stiffness, we can enhance the stiffness in this particular way, that is the bracing one. In the non-structural, now we are coming to the IS 13935, that is for the masonry structure. So there are first thing, that is the non-structural repairs we will be seeing. So patching up of defects as the cracks and the fall of the plasters, then checking and repairing of the electric conduits, checking and repairing the gas pipes, water pipes, plumbing services. So these all are the non-structural repairs that may be required in the case of retrofitting, but these are not the structural repairs. So IS 13935 material selection for the retrofit. These are various materials that are given. That is the non-stick grouts we can provide. That is the grouting of the non-stick cement, and the special sand is provided, and which consists of also the polymer. Then there can be short feed, there can be epoxy resins, quick setting cement mortars, the mechanical anchors can be provided, and fiber reinforced plastics can be provided as the retrofit material. Then in IS 13935 for the masonry, there are definition of the minor and the major cracks in the case of masonry. That is, minor crack is defined as the 0.5 mm to 5 mm, and the medium crack also, and the major crack is greater than 5 mm. So how to retrofit these particular kind of cracks is the methodology is given over here. That is, the original tensile strength is restored by the pressure injection of the non-shrink cement polymer grout. So even one who is interested, they can see the YouTube videos, that those are very good. And even in the IS 13935, these particular procedures are given well defined. Just a minute, I'll just come, I think. So kindly pardon me for this one because it is household. So anyway, so here the grade classification of the masonry load bearing walls. So here we can see the A grade, that is the worst one, to the D grade, that is the best one. A, as we can see over here, the rubble the mud walls, the UCR masonry, masonry with the rounded stones, and D we can see over here masonry construction as at C plus. So C plus is already having good features, that is seismic bands are provided at the door and the window, and apart from that, but with the band and the vertical reinforcement or confined masonry with the horizontal and vertical reinforcing of walls. So we can see over here A is the worst grade and D is the best grade, and this particular classification is given in IS 1395. And again there is grade of damageability of the masonry building. So if it is least damaged, then it is grade 1. If it is worst damage, then it is grade 5. So here very heavy structural damage has happened. So these are the part of the visual inspection, and this will be coming in the rapid visual screening. I will show you certain formats are there that are given in IS 13935 appendices, and that appendices consists of 4 forms, and I will show you those forms, that how to fill in those forms and where these particular grades of damageability and masonry grade classification has to be defined. Then there are certain definitions, that is a few, many and most. So these are the definitions, that is few is related to 5 to 15% and many is 50% and most is 75%. So here there is another table that is given in IS 13935, and type of building is A plus and up to D. So D is obviously the best one and A is the worst one. So here D in the case of zone number 2, so there is a few damage, and here in the case of this one there are certain damages. So here grade 5 damages are there and the rest. So here we can see, we can start from here, that is nil damage, that is for the best building, and for the least earthquake zone, that is the seismic zone number 2. So here there won't be damage, and the damage are increasing. Then again we will shift to this one, then again the damages are increasing, and the damages worst hit over here, that is for the A, that is the worst grade building, and for the worst seismic zone, that is the zone number 5. So this is one of the form, because I need to accommodate in the single slide this particular format, so I have put it in the landscape mode. And another thing, that is it is looking somewhat compressed, so because it was intentional, so I have made it so. So this one, that is form number 1 as per IS 13935, from IS 13935 I have picked it up. So seismic zone number 2 it is related to, and it is for the ordinary buildings in the seismic zone number 2. So here we need to put the photograph of this, then the sketch a plan with the length and the breadth, then fill in these details, that is the use of the building, address, pin code, and these are all part of the PWD engineers and the engineer who is related to the seismic site, that is the site inspection for a particular important building, important or historical building. Obviously, because we are not going to retrofit the low cost buildings, we are going to retrofit only the high cost building and the building which are important and historical in nature. Then we have number of story over here, the year built up, the total covered area, ground coverage, soil type, foundation type. So these all have to be defined, and what we have seen in the previous slide, that is we have to define over here the building type A plus to D, and we need to define over here the grade of damage, that is by observing the damage in that particular building, we need to define the grade 1 to grade 5 damage that is there for that particular type of building. Then here the recommended action at the last has to be defined by that particular site surveyor or the supervising engineer of that particular site surveyor, and here the surveyor signature has to be there. Then the supervising authority of him, that is the executive engineer sign, has to be there. The date of the survey is to be there, and this format is as per the IS. Similarly, we have form number 2, that is for the seismic zone number 2 important building, and seismic zone number 3 ordinary building. And the next form, that is form number 3, will be for the seismic zone number 3 important building, in seismic zone number 4 ordinary building seismic. And then the form number 4 will be for the seismic zone number 3 ordinary seismic zone number 3 important building and seismic zone number 4 ordinary building. In this way, this one are increasing, that is the importance, and the ordinary building are increasing with respect to the seismic zone, that is 1 and 2. That is here, if it is second, it will be third, it will be third, then it will be fourth, and it will be fourth, then it will be fifth. So here the important and the ordinary will always be there. As we can see over here, the important and the ordinary, important and all buildings. So here the difference is basically all the things are same. Basically only this particular recommendations are changing here. Ensure adequate maintenance. So here in the form number 1, there were only these two recommended actions. In the form number 2, that is for the more earthquake prone building, that is because here the seismic zone number 3 is coming. So that's why these particular recommendations are increasing here. In a similar manner, we have now a more severe zone, that is seismic zone number 4 is available with us now. So here the recommendations are even now changing, that is has increased more, and more seismic retrofit recommendations will be available over here. In a similar way, we have suppose seismic zone number 5 and seismic zone number 4 important buildings, and for it these recommendations are A plus, B plus. Evaluate in detail for the need for the construction or possible retrofitting to achieve type C plus or D. So these are based on the observations, and the retrofitting recommendations are given by the surveyor and the executive engineer of that particular survey. These are the clauses from IS 4326. That is, this particular code was the older one as compared to IS 1395 and the IS 15988, and these are just to show you, whereas these codal provisions are also the part of the new codes nowadays. That is the IS 1395 and IS 15988 is including these particular provisions. Then we have the methodology, that is how to retrofit the masonry structure. This is one of the way, that is grout or epoxy injection in the cracks, and in a similar way, if the crack is of this particular sort, then we have to grout the mortar, and the white cracks are filled in with this particular sort of arrangement. And the grout in the weak masonry, so here also the injection holes are made and the grout mixture is filled in, and here we see the welded or the wire mesh that is provided at the corner of the masonry structure in order to retrofit the structure. And these all are the procedure of this is given in detail in the IS 1395. In a similar way, we put the holes in the masonry, and then we inject the grout mixture, and the angles of these are also defined, that at what angle this particular holes have to be drilled in. Then if there is arch, and in order to avoid the arch from thrust, we can insert a beam above it, that is this arch can uplift. So in order to avoid the thrust of the arch, we can put a beam, this is also one of the retrofit measure, that is for the arch structure. That is, we are avoiding the thrust of the arch by putting a beam over it. Then again, if we have a window and there are certain damages at the corners and at the side of the window, then this is the way of retrofitting in the case of masonry, that is mesh of the ferro cement and the seismic belt, and overlap of the mesh is provided in this particular fashion. The detailed procedure is given in IS 1395. Then there is pre-stressing, that is strengthening of the wall by pre-stressing. So these are the pre-stressing bolts, and these are being pre-stressed in order to achieve the retrofitting. Then we have say this kind of structure is there, then we need to provide the seismic belts, and the door and the window is there though. So over here, number 1, that is seismic belt above the opening and the below roof at eave level. So here is the eave level, then the gable level we provide another seismic belt. Then we have the third, that is over here, the tie at the belt level is provided. In a similar way, the various seismic belts are provided in order to retrofit retrofit a existing damaged structure. Then again, the vertical seismic band at the corner and the junction. So here the wire meshes are provided, then the overlap of the steel mesh and the vertical seismic belts junctions are provided over here. Spikes for the fixing mesh are provided here. Here we can see this particular part, that is the number 1, number 2, that is the column, and number 4 are pre-existing, and we are retrofitting it with the help of the nails are fixed over here, and new additional member is provided over here. And here there is a U steel anchor clamp bolted to existing wall, and here this is another member, that is the retrofitting member provided in order to retrofit these kind of roof structures. Say we are having a stone masonry wall and we want to construct a new brick masonry wall that is connected with the stone masonry wall. Then we have to construct a column that is the RC column in this particular way, that is by removing some of the stone column part, and then we will be connecting it with the help of these particular anchors, and in this way this particular stone masonry wall is connected with the brick masonry wall. So having finished with the retrofitting, now we will go for, because the capacity and demand have to be calculated, so we need to go for the IS 1893 provision in order to see the seismic capacity and the demand of the structure, how to calculate them. So these are the provisions of the IS 1893. So here estimation of seismic forces is one of the part, then adequate lateral load resisting system has to be provided, a special study that can be like soil structure interaction, even more special studies can be there. So one of the special studies is soil structure interaction, then influence of the foundation type, structural irregularities we should avoid, the non-structural elements we need to see, because there should not be non-structural elements should not hamper the living conditions or the serviceability criteria. Then the addition to the new structure, so if there are certain modifications, then it has to be appropriate one and should be compatible with the seismic design. Then assessment of the seismic capacity of the existing structure we have to make, and we have to compare it with the demand. And once we have calculated the capacity, load capacity and the load demand, then if the capacity is more, then we are not required to retrofit. If the capacity is less than the demand, then we have to go for the retrofitting of the structure. So again, these are the methodologies or the basic principles. So these are various seismic codes of India, and the RC structures are designed with the help of IS well-known code, that is IS 456. So who are involved in the construction of the structure? That is one of the thing is, that is the planner, the analyzer or the designer, and then we have the construction. So these are the part of the planning, analysis, design and construction. The plan irregularities, if we consider, then the plan should be symmetric one as far as possible. And similar way over here also. And then we have the vertical irregularity. So in this case, the stiffness of each of the floor should be preferably same, and it should be uniform. There should not be vertical irregularities, that is non-uniform stiffness at each of the level of the structure. Then we have some of the favorable and unfavorable conditions in the elevation of the structure for the as far as the seismic considerations are considered and are concerned, and these are the unfavorable conditions, and the right one are the favorable conditions. So the mass should be more at the bottom ones rather than the mass greater than the upper one. That is, the water tanks are always questionable as far as the seismic considerations are considered, but yes, it is neat. So that's why we provide more stiffened part as this one in the case of the water tank, but however it is unfavorable condition configuration. Then we have in spite of this kind of connected structure, we should provide two separate structure in this particular way, and there should be proper gap in this particular structure, that is pounding should not occur. So, and again, we should not have this kind of configuration, it should be separated out. So these are the favorable one and these are the unfavorable one for as far as the seismic considerations are concerned. Then we have the mass distribution and the elevation and the stiffness distribution. So obviously the mass has to be regular one and the stiffness should be regular one as far as possible. Then these are the basic principles of the seismic design philosophy, that is the serviceability limit state. It is for the minor earthquake and the minor damages are correlated with the same. Then we have the ultimate limit state, so the moderate earthquake and there are repairable damages are there, that is the moderate damages are there. Then we have the collapse limit state, that is corresponding to the major earthquakes and that is for the major damages. So minor earthquake, minor damages, moderate earthquake, moderate damages, and major earthquake, major damages, but without the collapse. That is what our design philosophy is as far as the seismic principles are considered. Then we have something called as DBE, that is the design basis earthquake, and one is the maximum considered earthquake. So generally we design for the DB, that is the moderate earthquake only, that is the ultimate limit state. The collapse prevention is another thing. Then we have the codes are made for the normal structure. A specific study for the special structure is needed. So obviously it is not the intent of the code that we will be providing. We will be designing the code to resist the nuclear attack. It is the earthquake resistance only that we are providing. In the case of the most severe earthquake, it is not sure that we are going to get protected, but yes, the building should not collapse. That is the collapse limit state is there. And this for the spatial structure, we have to go for the spatial designing of the same. Time required for one of the complete cycle of free vibration is called as the natural time period. These are some of the preliminaries. Then the damping is this is like if the building is vibrating because of the earthquake, then the energy release mechanism is called as the damping. That is the energy dissipating characteristics is called as the damping. And this is because of friction in between that is the friction in between the molecules of the particles of the material of that particular structure, and which causes the damping, which is favorable one with respect to the earthquake resistance. Then we have the resonance. So this particular thing should be avoided, that is the forcing function is matching with the natural that is the forcing frequency is matching with the natural frequency of the structure. In that case the resonance will occur and there is continuous build up of the vibrations and the building will collapse finally. So this should not occur, and this is very rare case because it is very difficult to match the forcing function with the natural frequency of the structure. So again the same thing, that is the minor earthquake, moderate earthquake, and the major earthquake. That is the minor damages, moderate damages, and the major damages without the collapse of the structure. So ERD methodology, basically we have the traditional methodology, that is we design for the strength and the ductility. So this is what we adopt in natural, but these are some of the advanced control method, that is we used to provide the base isolation, that is the active, passive, and the hybrid one. And we can also provide the ERD with the help of structural control, that is the base isolation one. But we are not going, this is not the part of our study. This one is the part of our study, that is the capacity and demand we used to calculate with the traditional methods only. Then we have advances in the ERD. So these are some of the advances, that is deterministic seismic hazard analysis, probabilistic seismic hazard analysis we used to perform in order to calculate the exact hazard or exact seismic hazard. Then we have the design factors, PGA, earthquake response spectrum, response reduction factor is importance factor. Then the soil structure interaction is one of the advances, experiences of performance in the earthquakes. Then we can do the mathematical modeling, that is FE modeling, 3D modeling. 2D modeling is now outdated, but obviously this is also one of the very important, very effective way to do the analysis, that is the 2D analysis. That is the cantilever frame method and the portal frame method, with the help of which we can analyze for the seismic forces, that is the lateral forces, and we can know that what are the shear force, what are the bending force, what are your axial force, and what are the torsional force that are coming in a particular structure, in a particular structural member. Then we have the shake table testing, then the quasi-static testing, that is That is also one of the advanced part in the ERD, that is earthquake resistant design. So this is from the ATC, that is Applied Technology Council. This was the first code as far as the performance-based seismic design was considered, and here we have the immediate occupancy level. Here we have the life safety level and the collapse prevention level. So these are synonymous to the major earthquake, the moderate earthquake, and the minor earthquake, the minor damages, the moderate damages, and the major damages without the collapse. So without collapse is always a very important part in the case of the major earthquake. So as per IS 1893, we used to calculate the base shear, that is what is the entire lateral force that is there, that is VB, and that is equal to H times of W, that is horizontal seismic coefficient, multiplied with the seismic weight of the building, that is the vertical weight. So here the lateral load is calculated with the help of VB, that is H times of W. Then we have the distribution of this particular VB, that is the total lateral force at various floors, is distributed with the help of QI, and the formula is given over here, that is WI, that is weight of each of the floor and the height of each of the floor. And in this way we can calculate QI, that is the lateral force that has to be applied at each of the floor, and the distribution of the entire lateral force is done with the help of this particular formula. And where this AH, that is the seismic horizontal coefficient, is defined as Z by 2 I by R SA by G. Here I is the importance factor that is dependent upon the importance of the structure. If the structure is more important, that is say the hospital building, or say the historical structure, or say the VIP structure, and then in that case we have the importance factor as greater one, and the lesser one for the less important structures. Then we have the response reduction factor. It used to counter for the redundancy for the over strength. If at the design stages we have provided more factor of safety at various levels, then also it used to take care. Then also it used to consider the ductility. The more the ductility, the more the response reduction factor is. Then we have SA, that is the spectral acceleration coefficient, and I by R shall not be greater than 1. That is one of the provision of the code. I will tell you what is this SA in the coming slide, that is the spectral acceleration coefficient. So the response reduction factor, as I've already told, that it is dependent upon the ductility, the over strength, the redundancy, the energy dissipation, that is the damping, and we have the method of design. So on these all 5 factors, this response reduction factor is dependent upon. So the response reduction factor in IS 1893, we have a table. So that table I have put over here, and for the OMRF, that is ordinary moment resistant frame, and that is RC structure, we have only 3 as the R value, and for the SMRF we have it as the 5 value. The difference between OMRF and the SMRF is that in the case of OMRF we are not going to provide the ductile detailing of the RC building, and in the case of your special moment resistant frame we are going to provide the ductile detailing. So ductile detailing is basically provided with the help of IS 13920 provisions. That is, special confining reinforcement is provided, and extra reinforcement is provided in the case of SMRF, and there is one special configuration. So various configurations are given. So that is corresponding to the SMRF. OMRF is known IS 13920 buildings. So here these are the 2 values, that is 3 and 5, and for other structures, for the steel structures and even other structures, the various R values are given, but that OMRF and SMRF is very important. Then we have the seismic zone factor. So these are the seismic zone factor is dependent upon the previous history of the earthquake, and the fault, where the faults are lying, and various geographical factors are considered. And once we know this, then the experts have derived the seismic zoning factor for the entire Indian map, and this is how the seismic zoning factor is arrived. And we have this particular map, that is the seismic zoning map of the India. Here we can see the Himalayan part is majorly in the seismic zone number 5, and the close to the Himalayan part is the seismic zone number 4, and we have certain because of the 2001 Gujarat earthquake. It is in the seismic zone number 5. Because of the history of the earthquake also, we used to take the particular zone in that seismic zone itself. So the zone number 5 is the highest seismic zone, and the zone number 2, which is clubbed nowadays with the seismic zone number 1, is the least seismic prone zone. So these are various zoning factors: second, third, fourth, fifth, as we have seen on the map. And here we can see that the zoning factor, that is the maximum considered earthquake, we have 0.1, 0.16, 0.24, and 0.36. And if we make it Z by 2, because in the formula AH is equal to Z by 2 I by R SA by G. So here in that formula itself, we used to consider the dB only, that is Z by 2, and these are just the half of the MC. Then we have the site specific procedure. So if the seismic zone factors we want to redefine, that is, we want to refine the seismic zoning factor, then for that we have to go for the site specific procedure. And even if we want to modify the seismic response spectra, that is, we want to do do a very peculiar analysis, a very special analysis, then we have to go for the site specific procedure. And for that one can do a special study. The provisions are there, and one can study the same and can conduct that special analysis. So this is one of the typical site specific response spectrum one can calculate. In the IS 1893, the site specific the seismic response spectrum is shown over here. The type 1, that is the rock or the hard soil; the type 2, the medium soil; the type 3, that is the soft soil. So the type 1 soil is basically corresponding to your N value, that is less than 15. Greater than 30. And for the medium soil, it is between 15 and 30, and for the soft soil, it is less than 15. So N value is basically the number of blows required required to penetrate into the soil to a particular specified limit, so that whatever the number of blows are required, that is particularly the N value, the SPT N value, as we know very well. So here the hard soil will be consisting of the more number of blows, and the soft soil will be consisting of less number of blows. So this is corresponding to the less than 15 N, and this is corresponding to the greater than 30 N, that is the hard soil greater than 30 N. So here we can calculate the SA by G, and the period is, that is the time period of the structure, that is the natural period of the structure, we can calculate from the formula. And for a particular structure, we can easily calculate the natural period corresponding to the same. If it is lying on the hard soil, medium soil, and soft soil, we can calculate the SA by G with the help of this particular graph. A typical time history of the earthquake. So basically the acceleration component can be there can be velocity, there can be a displacement component, and here we can see all are the acceleration component, and this is how the typical time histories can appear, and from it we can also derive the response spectrum. Then we have the broad features of the seismic chord. So here we have the seismic zoning, we have seen the design philosophy, we have seen the 3 types of soil, that is the hard soil, medium soil, and the soft soil. The response reduction factor we have seen. Then the structural irregularities, load combinations can be there, that can be taken from the IS 456 and IS 1893. So different load combinations are there. And we have the response spectrum method, the time history method, as the dynamic analysis method. So various structural systems, there can be frame system, shear wall system, dual system, core system, inverted pendulum system, that is your water tank system. So for the foundation also, the seismic considerations are there, one can see if he is interested. So these are certain important points, that is a strong column, weak beam. So always the column should be stronger and the beam should be weaker. So this thing has to be seen as per the capacity based design criteria, that is your column should be weak, should be stronger than the beams. Then we have to see the ductile detailing provision as per IS 13920. In case it is SMRF, then we have to go for the IS 13920 provision. That is, in the case of your seismic zone number 4 and 5, it is very mandate, and in the case of seismic zone number 3, it is optional. That is, we need to provide the SMRF or OMRF. So nowadays it is even mandated for the seismic zone number 3 that we need to go for the SMRF only, that is the ductile retaining provision for of IS 13920 has to be provided for seismic zone number 3, 4 and 5. So here one of the special study case, as in the IS 1893, it is said that you can conduct a special study if the special study comes for a special structure. So these are certain terms in the soil structure interaction, that is kinematic interaction effect, the foundation effect, foundation damping effect, and the inertial interaction effect. So the kinematic interaction effect is because of the wave propagation considerations, that is the wave of the earthquake is modified, and that particular wave is considered for the seismic analysis. Then we have the damping effect, that is a damping that we take of the structure is modified because of the soil structure interaction consideration. What happens in the soil structure interaction is either we can keep the structure as the fixed base one, or we can keep the structure as the flexible base one. So in general, the structure is always kept on the flexible base only, because soil is flexible one rather than the rigid one. So our code says that you can ignore the flexibility effect of the soil, and you can consider the rigid base for your hard soil and the medium soil case. But for the soft soil case, you can consider the soil as the flexible one. So here the flexible, if we want to go for the soft soil, then we can go for the soil structure interaction study, that is we can make the base of the structure as the flexible one with the help of certain soil springs. And these soil springs are calculated with the formulas that are given in the code, and these are some of the simplistic model of, that is the in place of the rigid base we have provided the spring and the dashpot at the base of the model. There are some of the modifications, that is omega naught is your fixed base frequency of the structure, and omega e is your effective natural frequency of the structure when considering the SSI, that is soil structure interaction. So this is the special study. One who is interested can go deep into it. So here KH and KR are your horizontal and the rotational stiffnesses. Other factors that has to be considered, and your Kx, that is the horizontal stiffness, the rotational stiffness are calculated with the help of this particular formula. Then we have the damping and damping in the rotational. So these are calculated with this formula, where G is the shear modulus, and G is calculated with the rho Vs square, that is rho is the mass density and Vs is your shear wave velocity with respect to particular soil. So these are all the part of special study. One who's interested can go deep into it. Rest can ignore it also. So once we have considered the flexible base with the help of these particular formulae, and we have even modified the wave, that is because of the kinematic interaction effect. So these are the ways to modify to calculate the shear modulus, dynamic shear modulus, and these are having certain limitation. This particular formula is having the limitation because this particular formula was assuming the soil as isotropic and homogeneous, and because this is coming from the strength of material formula, and this is like we are limiting our assumptions. So that's why this particular formula will be invalid, and we used to go with this empirical formulas given by seed or the field test. So this is the most relevant formula, that is G is equal to rho Vs square. And after incorporating all this stiffness and the wave propagation modification, so here one study was conducted where we have applied this one, and we have considered the case 1, case 2 and case 3, that is the hard soil, medium soil and the soft soil, keeping all other factors as same, that is the plan, the zone and everything was same, and these were the comparisons. So I have compared the cost of the concrete first. So in the case of your first case, that is the hard soil, medium case 2, and the soft soil, that is the case 3. So in the case of case 3, there was more requirement of the plain concrete over here. So this is in terms of the concrete and the steel requirement, whereas we will also compare the the time period that has got increased because of the SSI. So in the case of case 3, always we are seeing that the more concrete and the steel is required, and here in this case we are seeing that the beam and the column, we are the concrete and the steel were almost same, but for the footing there was most variation, that is there is more requirement of the steel in the case of your case 3, that is the soft soil. Here the plain concrete and the reinforced steel is compared. So in both the cases, it is observed that for the case number 3, there is more requirement of the concrete and the steel, and the total sum is also required more for the case of your case 3, that is the soft soil. Here for the case number 2, that is the medium soil, what we have observed is that the time period has increased from 1.06 to 1.08. So obviously, because the soil was made flexible, so the stiffness has got reduced. So stiffness is, once it's reduced, then we will be getting more time period, because stiffness of the structure is reduced, then we will be getting the more time period. In a similar way, if the damping of the structure alone was considered, then it was 5%. When the damping of the soil was also considered, then the damping will be getting increased. So this is what the effect of the SSI will be there. In a similar fashion, we will see over here for the case number 3, that is for the soft soil. So here also for the case of fixed one and for the case of flexible one. So here we see that there is an increase in the time period. In a similar way for the soft soil, because the soft soil damping is more, so the damping of the structure, that is 5% plus the structure plus the soil damping part. So here we have seen that 5.81 it has gotten, that is more as compared to the medium soil case. That was a special study case that is performed when we have a special structure and a special study has to be performed, then we can perform it in a separate way. So those provisions are generally taken with the help of some other code also. So IS FEMA 440, some provisions are taken from FEMA 440 and ATC 40. So these provisions have to be mixed up with the international codes, and we need to conduct the special study by mixing up our IS code with the international codes. So we have over here the single degree of freedom system, that is the basic system required for the for study of the like characteristics of motion. So in this case we are seeing over here a mass of the structure that is modeled in this way, then the stiffness of the structure is modeled in this way. It is kept over here on the roller, and it is free to vibrate. And once we have given it a free vibration, that is a rightward motion instantaneous, then if you draw the free body diagram, then the stiffness force Kx will be there, that is x is the displacement when multiplied with the stiffness, so it becomes a stiffness force, and mg will act downward, that is the weight, and the reaction will act upward. So this is the free body diagram of this particular mass. Once we do summation fx is equal to 0, that is in the horizontal direction, the equilibrium equation is written, then we will find that mx double dot, that is the d from the D'Alembert law. If this mass is vibrating instantaneously in the rightward direction, then there is in the leftward direction a fictitious inertia force, that is mx double dot, will be acting. So mx double dot is the inertia force, mx double dot will be equal to your minus kx. In that case, we will be getting by rewriting this equation in this particular form, we will be getting mx double dot plus kx is equal to 0. So if we put over here the boundary conditions, that is x displacement at time t is equal to 0, it is x naught, and velocity x dot dx by dt at time t is equal to 0, we have over here the x dot naught. So x double dot is obviously the acceleration, that is d square x by dt square. Then if we add the damping to this particular system, that is what happens is we can model the damping in this particular way, that is a piston is there where certain holes are there inside it, and the oil is filled in one of the directions. So if we move this particular piston, so there is some resistance to this piston provided by the viscosity of the soil of the oil, and this particular viscosity of the oil that is providing the resistance to this particular piston is called as the viscous damping, and this is what the concept is. And if we want to calculate the viscous damping force, then that particular viscous damping force is given by the damping coefficient multiplied with the velocity of the piston motion, that is the x dot, that is dx by dt. So here in this case we have added the dashpot, that is a piston moving inside the cylinder is modeled in this way, and the dashpot coefficient is c. The stiffness is as it is, the mass is as it is, the displacement is xt. So over here, if you draw the free body diagram, that is when the instantaneous motion in the rightward direction is given, so obviously the fictitious inertia force will also be there in the leftward direction, that is mx double dot t. So if we have the summation fx is equal to 0, we will get mx double dot t is equal to minus cx dot minus kxt is equal to 0. And in this case, if we rearrange this particular equation, we will get this particular equation. And if you put the boundary conditions over here, we have the boundary condition, that is at t is equal to 0. We have displacement as x naught and the velocity as x dot naught. So once we put this particular boundary conditions, and we have certain assumption, that is xi is equal to c upon 2 under root km. So this is the damping ratio. This is another new term. So we have the solution of the same because those are all the homogeneous differential equation with the constant coefficient. So we have to see for the solution of the same, and there will be three cases that will be arriving. That is, we will be having damping ratio less than 1, that is xi less than 1, and xi equal to 1, xi greater than 1. In the case of xi greater than 1, we will be having overdamped system. In the case of xi is equal to 1, we will be having critically damped system. And in the case of less than 1, we will be having the underdamped system. So basically over all structures are underdamped system only. That is the damping ratio are less than 1. So in the case of underdamped system, when we put the boundary conditions and we solve those particular differential equation, we will get this particular solution, that is the displacement equation is given by this particular. And if we rewrite this equation, there are various formats. So that particular displacement, when we draw with respect to time, xt is drawn with respect to time. For the underdamped acceleration, we will get this particular graph. So I will fastly move now. Here we see the multi-degree of freedom system. Just as a glance, I'm giving a quick glance to you so that we will know that what are the things that are involved in this particular retrofit analysis itself. So these are all the things that is what we need for the capacity and the demand determination. So these are the basic preliminaries. So here we have the numerical method, that is for the multi-degree of freedom system we want to analyze. So this particular figure we can see, and these are equations corresponding to the same, that is the flexibility coefficients we have found out. And here we can write here, that is mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx is equal to 0, and further simplifying it is at the same, that is the damping we are ignoring. In that case, we will be having over here kx is equal to lambda times of x. And once we solve it, then we can find out the displacement at various level in this particular format. And obviously these are the eigenvectors. These are not the exact solution, but these are the eigenvectors corresponding to the eigenvalues, that is the various frequencies of the structure. Frequency number 1, frequency number 2, and frequency number 3. Because it was a 3 degree of freedom system, and we were having the eigenvectors corresponding to the same as this one. Then we have the finite element method basics. So here basically the entire structure is discretized because this forms the part of the software. So inside the software, what used to go, that also we should understand, that how the software used to solve our entire structure, and it used to give us the load and the displacement. Basically in the software also we used to solve the equation, that is mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx is equal to ft. So this particular equation is solved by discretizing the entire structure into various finite elements. So one of the finite element is shown over here, that is a triangular element. After discretization, we have got one of the triangular element. If we combine this particular triangular element, form the entire structure, it will become a complete structure. So this is the finite element, and these are certain equations corresponding to the same. So this AE is your nodal displacement. This U is your displacement within the element. So these are connected with the help of the shape function that is called as N. There are various other equations, so one who is interested, they can go, and I think this forms a part of the FEM, so I won't go deep into it. So here these are the equations that are corresponding to the finite element method, and the shape function also we can calculate, and we have the elasticity matrix in the case of your x, y, z, and are all equations that we are required to solve, and the entire element stiffness matrix is calculated with the help of this particular solution of the matrix and the integration of the same over the entire structure. Then we have the final matrix for the non-dynamic case, that is kx is equal to r, and r is your the external forces, the k is the stiffness, the a is your the displacement at the nodes. So here Kij, that is the global stiffness matrix, we can get with the help of combination of the various element stiffness matrices. In a similar fashion, the global forces we can get as a summation of the various element forces. So in this way we can solve the entire mx double dot plus cx dot plus kx is equal to 0 matrices equation, and we can get the displacement and the required forces with the help of FE. This is one of the software that is dependent upon the FE equations, finite element equation, and it used to incorporate those particular finite element equations. So here this is SAP 2000. So all those equations are solved inside this particular software in order to give us the output as the forces and the displacement. So these are some of the windows from the SAP software. So here we start the modeling in this particular way, that is we used to select the element, we used to select the frame section, tendon section, area section, we used to give over here the material property, we used to give over here the load that is acting, and once we know this, then we can discretize this particular entire structure into certain finite elements, and this is done basically automatically in this particular software. But yes, we have also the option to discretize this particular structure, and we can refine the discretization, and we can get the final solution in the case of this particular software as well. That is, more the finer elements, more the better solution will be there. But yes, the lesser the efficiency of the solution, because the efficiency means the time will be taken more. So here this is another window, that is the rectangular loading is applied in this way, that is the distance 0 to the distance 1, that is along the length of the beam, and 0.5, 0.5. So it is a triangular loading. If it would have been 0.5 and 0.75, then it would have been the rectangular loading. So in this way we can supply the load from the slab to the beam in this particular fashion in the software. There is some diaphragm arrangement, that is the slab has to be made rigid. That is one of our assumption, that is there will be slab movement as the rigid one. So in this case, in this case of the software, it is provided in this way, that is we used to provide diaphragm at various z levels, assign different diaphragm constant to each of the z level. So I'm at the verge of finish of this particular presentation. So here we see various global and Indian seismic resources for the earthquake engineering codes and earthquake engineering. So NDMA, that is National Disaster Management of India, Bureau of Indian Standard, NICE from the Kanpur, and we have EERI USA, Earthquake Engineering Research Institute USA. We have USGS, United States Geological Survey, then FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, AC, American Society of Civil Engineers. Then these are the journals from where we can get the interested papers, research papers, from where we can do certain special study as well. Then we have the standards, that is BIS standard from this particular website as well. So from if you want to get the BIS standard, then you just need to insert this particular URL and you can get the BIS standards for free. This was the earliest known code for the civil engineer, that is the Hammurabi code, and this code is having the clauses like I for an I. If something is destroyed because of the mistake of the builder, then the destruction will be there to the builder itself. That is some of the clause we can read it out. So these are written in this particular scribblings, and these have been converted in this particular way to the English. So 230 says if the child of the house be killed, the child of that builder be slain. So eye for an eye kind of clauses were there. This was the first known code of the civil engineers. Then these are certain snapshots that I have taken from the BIS website. So here various code related to the earthquake engineering are reflected. Are the snapshots from the Android app. So you can go to this particular NDMI website and app download. So here you can download certain app and you can install the app in the Android mobile, and you can see one of the snap screenshot of that particular app is shown over here. So this particular thing we have already studied in this particular presentation. Here zone number 2, 3, 4 and 5 and the grade category A, B, C of the building and the grade of the damages are shown over here. This particular slide, as if you remember, then we have seen in one of the slides in this particular presentation. So these are available from the Android app also, and also these are available in the IS 13935 code. Recapitulating what we have discussed, IS 15988 provisions, that is simplified vulnerability assessment or the preliminary evaluation, and then the detailed vulnerability assessment and the detailed evaluation we have seen, and then the retrofitting measures we have seen with the help of IS 15988 and 13935. Then we had discussed the IS 1893 principles. It has 2016, so please pardon. So here we have also seen the spatial study, that is the combination of FEMA 440 and IS 1893 for the SSI analysis, that is soil structural interaction analysis. We had the quick glance at the single degree of freedom system, multi degree of freedom system, the finite element method. Then we have seen one or two slides of the software also that was involved in the FEM methodology. Then we have seen the global online resources on the earthquake engineering, that is IS code and the global resources. Thank you. If you have questions, they are welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for your very insightful speech regarding seismic retrofit of reinforced concrete structures. And now we will take some questions from participants. So I publish questions. Can you see, sir, questions?
Yes, I've seen over here.
So first question is that what will be the effect of U factor is less or greater than 0.7?
Is basically it is dependent upon the life of the structure. So it is the life factor.
Okay, sir. Hello. Hello. I hope participants may get answer of his question, and we have more questions like how many percentage of oscillation. I published question also. So the question is that how many percentage of oscillation can be reduced if a swimming pool is constructed?
See the formula that I have. I did not get your question. Can you beg your pardon?
Yes, sir. Sir, question is that how many percentage of oscillation can be reduced if a swimming pool is constructed a terrace top? I think. Hello, sir. Your voice is not coming. I think. Can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Sir, you are not audible.
Spatial study, and we have to do a yes. Yes, Raghuvesh, you are audible.
Yes, sir. Sir, question. Did you hear, sir? Question.
No.
Sir,
The
I
last
repeat.
question was percentage of oscillation. So
Yes,
that I
sir.
have answered. Yes. Yes.
Okay, sir. So I go to the next question from Deepshika. How can building made up of GERG panel be retrofitted? Also, how durable building made up with GFRG panel are after retrofitting in terms of seismic loading? Some network issue is there, I think. Hello. Hello. Sir, can you hear me? Hello. Hello. Connecting. नेट आ रहा है. Hello. Sir, are you able to hear me? Hello. Sir, we are. हेलो. हेलो. हाँ सर. अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा. हाँ. मैं 1 मिनट सर. डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया सर.
उनका डिस्कनेक्ट.
हाँ हाँ.
नो वरीज, नो वरीज, जस्ट
ऐड.
अब बोलिए फिर से.
सर एक बार आपको मैं ऐड कर रहा हूँ. नहीं यहाँ तो.
चीज ऑलरेडी देयर.
सर 1 मिनट आपका एक बार चेक कीजिए सर.
कनेक्ट करने के लिए.
डिस्कनेक्ट है रियली, क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो है आप अभी इन टीम ही दिखा रहे हैं.
हाँ, इसका.
ओके.
हाँ, ठीक है.
ओके. 1 मिनट.
You can do one thing, remove from meeting and ask him to join again. फिर से.
Remove from meeting. Should I do this?
Do.
So now
फिर से नितेश is there.
yeah.
Okay, now.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
ask
just
me
I'm
the-
I have removed and asking you to join again. So now you are getting unavailable.
He'll join. No response. Again, ask him to join.
नेट आ रहा है सर? नेट तो डिस्टर्ब नहीं हुआ है ये सर? ओके, अनअवेलेबल
It's calling. It's calling. ये हो रहा है ना?
नहीं सर, कॉल अनअवेलेबल।
अभी कॉल से आ रहा है।
हाँ, राइट नाउ कॉलिंग हो रहा है सर। यस सर, मैं एक बार
Yes. Now it is connected.
यस सर।
Yes. Your question?
Yes sir, questions are there. Just one more questions we have. So I just the reconnect. Yes, now ending live.
Read out the questions here.
So dear participants, sorry for interruption because of some network issue. So now we have some more questions from sir, like how can building made up of GFRG panel be retrofitted? Also, how durable building made up with GFRG panel after retrofitting in terms of seismic loading?
Okay, so basically, is it with respect to the RC structure or with respect to the masonry buildings?
She did not mention, but I think maybe RCC or
For RCC, basically in the code, it is like retrofitting with the help of jackets. That is the fiber reinforced jacketing technique. Then the anchorages are there. Then we have the addition of the bracing panels. Then we can have the jacketing of the beams. We can have the new that shear wall we can have. So these are the specified ways of retrofitting in for the RC structure. Whereas this GFRG, it is for like I think masonry one, and obviously it will be because enhancing the load capacity of the structure, because we are doing the retrofitting, so it will be enhancing the load capacity of the structure. But we have to follow the procedure of the same. That is the right procedure of the same has to be followed.
okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I think questions we have taken all the questions. Now there is no more any question we have. So I thanks again. Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightened speech, and really it was indeed an eye-opening talk by Dr. Nitesh, sir, and I express my special gratitude towards you, sir. I thank Dr. Meena Kumari Sharma, HOD of Civil Engineering Department, Manipal University, Jaipur, for their guidance in conducting this webinar. And once again, I thank all the participants, and I'm confident that the participants will get optimum benefit out of it. And so we are going to conclude this session now. And thank you so much for your time and support.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you organizers, and thank you the participants.
Welcome, sir. Thank you so much.